back with another highly educational video. Today we're going to shorten a stick, which is a fairly straightforward process, but there are a couple of things to keep in mind. So let's educate ourselves before we go into the manual labour. 3 things happen when you shorten a stick. The balance of the stick will move down closer to the blade, and so will the point where the shaft flexes. And thirdly, the shaft will also get slightly stiffer than before. The stick will bend at a certain point when pressure is applied to the shaft. When you shorten the shaft, that point will naturally move down closer to the blade. Let's say that we would shorten the stick all the way down here, which would be crazy, but for the purpose of education, we'll say that we'll shorten the stick all the way down there. Then naturally, the stick wouldn't be able to flex down here anymore, it would happen down here. And simultaneously, the shaft would also get a lot stiffer. So that's what happens. At the same time, the balance point of the stick is somewhere around here, but if we were to cut the stick all the way down here, then the stick will fall straight down that way, and the balance point will move down here. So those are 3 things that happen when you shorten a stick, and it's important to keep that in mind. How will this impact your game? Well, let's say that you normally play with a 27 flex, and you buy a stick that's 100 centimeters long and you intend to shorten it. Then it won't hurt to buy a 28 flex, just to compensate for that, the fact that the shaft will get a bit stiffer. Now let's get to work. In order to shorten a stick, we're going to need a couple of things. The first thing being a stick that we want to shorten, very helpful. We'll need something to measure out how long we want to shorten the stick with, something to make a mark on the shaft of where we want to make the cut. Going to need some tools in order to remove the cap, like pliers to remove the little metal prongs, a hairdryer to heat the cap up in order to remove it properly, and finally a hacksaw with fine teeth that we're going to cut the shaft with. What a mess I've made. It's about to get worse. First of all, let's put this back in order, but then we're going to remove the grip. That was easy. Now please do come a bit closer so we can get started. All caps are attached with these little pins and you need to remove them, which can be a bit of a pain. All you need is a sharp tool and a fair amount of patience. You just really need to get in there properly and easy peasy. Get some pliers to remove it properly. That is 1. Let's get to number 2. Make sure we really get in there. All done. Let's see if this comes off straight away. Oh, it did. We won't need to heat it up. I'll get the hairdryer out of the way since we won't need that. I would like my stick to be 98 centimeters long, and this stick is originally 100, so let's mark out 2 centimeters. That was easy. We've arrived at the main part, which is to cut the actual shaft, and instead of going at it like a maniac, we are going to make a pre-cut track around the shaft that we can then cut through. It's going to look a bit something like this, and then all you need to do is follow that track. Let's go, baby! It's important to follow the shafts all the way around instead of just cutting straight through. This ensures that you get a properly straight shaft. Make sure that all the carbon fibre comes out, otherwise your stick might sound like a maracas, which is mostly annoying. Not going to affect your performance, but it's annoying. So make sure all the carbon fibre comes out. This is very important. When you clean this up, you want to make sure that you have something that protects your hands, like a wet paper towel. Because it's not breadcrumbs, it's carbon fibre, and it can cut your hands and irritate your skin, so you really don't want to touch it because it's sharp. So make sure you protect your hands when you clean it up. In order to get the cap back on properly, you can either use some coach tape or electrical tape. I'm going to use coach tape because I have more of that. Make sure you do about a lap, tuck the edges in. You can now put the cap back on. But it's going to be hard, so you're going to want to try not to break the desk. Actually, the floor is better. Let's do that. It will look something like that. That is craftsmanship. Absolutely gorgeous. Dear God, look at this mess. Now that you've shortened the stick and put the cap back on properly, you can either put on the old grip or get the best grip that money can buy, which is honestly any grey grip from any brand, like Floorball's tyre grip. So I'm going to put that back on. Best of luck!